Okay, so let's answer your first question first. His first
Okay.
question here, we'll take notes on this. It's you have a pre-foreclosure. And guys, what is a pre-foreclosure? It's pretty much a property where they're late on their mortgage payments. So we got a house. And this house, let's say that it is currently worth about $300,000. Okay. And there is a underlying mortgage of 280,000. Okay. The mortgage is 280. It was recently bought in, let's say, 2021. So it has a low rate mortgage and the mortgage is 280. The house has not gone up in value much. And this mortgage is at, well, if it's at in 2021, then the mortgage is about 3%. So we know that there's a low rate mortgage, right? So one box is checked. And we know that they have low equity, right? There's only $20,000 of equity here, right? That's their profit pretty much. Now, if they were to sell the house on market, actually they'd be negative equity. So that's always a pitch I use. I'm like, hey, your house is worth 300,000, but if you listed it on the market, you have to pay agent commissions, you have to pay closing costs, you'd have to repair some things. You always subtract 10%. So now you say, hey, you'd only walk away with 270,000. But wait, you're not walking away with 270,000 because you have a mortgage of 280. So actually, you're going to sell your house, your hard-earned house, and you're going to pay me, the buyer, $10,000 cash. Can you imagine that effed up world where you're selling your house and you're losing $10,000? Well, I have a solution for you. I am going to just take over your mortgage payments and give you $5,000 cash to find a new place for moving costs and apartments and all that stuff. So that's the pitch. But what did I look for there? Really two things. I looked for that low rate mortgage, which they checked. And if they bought a house in 2020, 2021, 2019, you already know they have a low rate mortgage. You don't even need to ask them. And I'm looking for low equity. And if those two boxes really are checked, subject to, always, subject to for sure. Now that's a property you'll buy for yourself, or you can wholesale really easily. It doesn't. So those are your two boxes. But let's say we were calling a pre-foreclosure, and they had an interest rate of 6%. Like,
Real quick,
go for
who
it.
holds the title during that entire while you're paying the I think
The guy who they own the title and the deed. At least let's talk Texas. They own title and deed, and until the
okay.
point where they sell the house. Once they sell the house, title and deed always transfer. Title and deed transfer. Now that's in
Okay.
Texas. Title and
So
deed transfer. Insane.
subtuing doesn't qualify as a sale.
No, it does.
It's a contract.
It does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
that's a great question. When you sell your house, subject to what's going on, the debt, you got to split up two things. You got to split up the debt, which is the mortgage, and then also, I'll draw it out for you guys. I know you can't see my camera right now. You got to split up two things. You're splitting up debt, and then you're splitting up title and deed. This is pretty much your receipt. Pace Morby always says receipt. When you go to the grocery store, this is the famous Pace Morby example, and you buy groceries, and what shows the proof that you own the groceries? It's the receipt. This is your receipt of ownership, and then this is the debt. So usually when you buy a house, you own the debt and the receipt. But in sub 2, the debt stays in the seller's name, and then you, the buyer, have this. So you get title and deed. It's a normal. God, what the heck happened? You get title and deed. It's a
I
normal
see.
sale, but the seller gets the debt, and that's so beneficial for you because now you don't have debt in your name. It's crazy good, and the seller is the one who had to go to the bank, right? The seller is the one who had to get credentials. The seller is the one who had to go and have credit. The seller is the one who had to put the down payment down with cash. You didn't have to do any of that. You just took over the seller's debt, but the title and the deed transfer
Right.
to you. And that's why sub 2 is so good for investors. Is it good for the
Yeah.
sellers? No. Like, yes, it can be helpful. And it needs to be sellers who are in desperate situations. If you're not desperate, you're probably not selling your property sub 2. Again, as Pace always says, we buy homes sub 2, but we don't sell homes sub 2. We buy homes on seller finance. We don't sell homes on wraps. Oh, sorry, opposite. We don't buy homes on wraps. So that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, that's to answer your
Right.
question. But yeah, back to your
I
initial
would.
question right here, just really quick. If I'm finding a
Yeah.
pre-foreclosure and it has a high interest rate, so maybe the interest rate is 6%, well, then I'm going to offer them cash for sure. Or if they have,
Mhm.
or if they're not low equity, remember I told you the two things to look for. If they're high interest rate or high equity, then I'm offering cash. If they are low interest rate and low equity, then I'm thinking sub two. So in this situation, let's say they have a mortgage of 180,000, and that makes their equity 120,000. I don't want to give them $120,000 cash for their equity. At that point, I'm just going to write a cash offer. So I'm going to be like, hey, man, would you take $240,000 cash for your home? He ends up walking away with 60 grand cash. So yeah, you can be in a pre-foreclosure and still walk away with a lot of money. Just because you're in a pre-foreclosure doesn't mean you're low equity. You could have gotten your loan in 2004, but now you just hit hard times. You lost your job now. So it's a little bit of a misunderstanding when people think pre-foreclosures are only low equity.